So today I find myself with a surplus of eggs. My hens stopped laying for a while, so I had to go to the grocery store and buy some regular eggs because my local egg purveyors, the other people that live in my rural area, were also having problems with chickens and eggs, so nobody was selling any. So I went and bought some white eggs. Now my chickens are laying eggs like crazy, and I'd like to try dehydrating those white eggs that I bought at the grocery store. I've never dehydrated eggs before, so I think it's going to be a fun little project, so we'll see how it goes. I'm going to use my sun oven, so I'm going to do it outside in the sun. I've not been able to find anybody else on YouTube that has done it this way in the sun, so it'll be interesting, to say the least. I'm lining my sun oven pots with some wax paper here because I think it'll, God, I hope it won't stick and it'll be more helpful. I tried looking at just my glass, like 13 by 9 inch pans, but they were too big to float in the solar oven. It's got one of those self-leveling shelves, and it wasn't working very well in there. So we'll see how it goes. Luckily, you saw me circle or draw an outline of this on paper or on the wax paper with a pencil, and then I cut it out. And I went on the outside lip, so I would have extra in the pan. It kind of rides up the wall a little bit, and I think that's going to work. So now I'm going to take a bunch of eggs, and probably won't be that many, and put them in these pans. I'm going to do a raw method first, and then we'll see how that turns out. And then second, we'll do where you fry up the eggs and make it into scrambled eggs, and then you dry those. So I think this will be a couple-day project, and we'll see which ends up better and if we can actually do it in the sun. So stay tuned for me to whip up some eggs. So I'm not going to spice these eggs at all with salt and pepper. I'm just going to crack them and go with it. So, gosh, with those pans, I'm going to say, let's start out with 6. Let's start out with 8. Shells are so soft on these things compared to the homegrown chickens. I don't know about them. Yeah, they're good enough. But see how runny they are? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I always crack the eggs on a flat surface. I find if you crack it on the side of a bowl, you can get shell in there more easily. But that's life. Okay, I'm going to start whipping. I'm old school, so I just whip with a fork. This is a batter bowl I have. It's a replica of one my grandma had. I love it. It's a Fire King, I think. Ceramic. Pyrex, I think, kind of a thing. Can take heat. You see, that doesn't take very long, and they're pretty well whipped. Some people use a blender. I guess it depends on how many eggs you're doing. So let's see about pouring these eggs. Alright, we're back. So I don't know how deep to pour these. I've never done it before. Let's just go until it feels right, huh? It's not quite all the way over, but it's kind of thick. Let's see here. This one's better, I think. I could probably get a couple more eggs in here, so next time, we'll go with that. We'll just see how it goes. I think we'll start with that many. Remember, these came with the solar oven, so I can stack them inside. And I can put a lid on it, but because you're supposed to dry eggs between like 135 and 145 degrees, I think I'm going to leave the lid off of this because that solar oven, you know, can get up to 300 plus degrees. So I think I'll put it in the oven and maybe crack the window a little bit. Let's go put them outside. Okay, so the solar oven, I had the window closed in here, and it's already about 180 degrees, which is a little hot for what we're going to try to do here. Straighten this out. Make sure this is even. God, this fucking liquid rolls all over the place. Obviously. Get it more straight. So let's see, if I close the window, I'm gonna touch the bowl. Bring it back. Close the window, touch the bowl, and it'll even out more. So this is why nobody does it online. Let's see. Nobody does it in the solar oven. Well, we'll see how it goes with that, but I am going to put the screws down that latch this closed open, and that's going to vent that. So I guess we'll just see how it goes, right? It's an experiment, and we'll see what happens. So I decided, since I got so few eggs in the sun oven, that I'm going to try the other 10 eggs just outside. It should be about 95 or 100 degrees today. I've got a silk pad here, you know, that you use for baking, and it's black, so it should draw the sun into it. So I'm just going to fill this up. This is 10 eggs that I just whipped. Hopefully it's heavy enough to push this thing down. And it looks like it is. So I'm going to put this outside. I'm going to put one of my metal mesh screens over the top of it. It's got a small mesh on it. I use it to dry other things. And we shall see what happens. Okay, hold on for a minute. We'll go outside. Alright, you guys have seen my work table before. I've got my big solar dryer over there. It's full of apples that are falling from our trees right now. Falling a little early, but I'm drying them nonetheless. And I've got some walnuts here that are drying. And I've got some apples and a peach over there that have fallen off the trees way too early, or they're sunburned in the case of the apples, and I'm cutting those up and feeding them to the chickens as a little treat. So here I've got those whipped eggs, silk pat in the pan, and here's my mesh screen that I've used in the past for other projects. I'm going to just simply put it on top. And it lies flat on top, and hey, let's just see what happens over the course of the next bunch of hours. Hi everybody, so I came out to check the eggs that were outside in the sun and just covered with the screen mesh. It's been several hours, and you can see that this is got a kind of a top layer on it. Geez, it's only maybe a centimeter thick, but it's not setting up all the way through. So I'm going to do an experiment on my experiment, and I'm going to move these into my greenhouse. I just checked the temperature, and it's somewhere north of 120 in there. I've got a digital thermometer going right now. My mercury thermometer will only go up to 120, so let's see if the digital thermometer gives us any more information. So let's move this one into the greenhouse, and then I'm coming over here to look at the ones we have in the solar oven. I actually put this stick up so we could prop the door open quite a bit more, and here it's really worked fast. So fast I'm a little worried that it's really cooked the egg through instead of dried it, but it's crunchy too. Can you hear that? So I know it's dried. Underneath it's a little less done. It's more steamed, but I didn't bring a hand mitt out, and it's too freaking hot to handle. So I'm going to leave this open while we go move the other stuff into the greenhouse, which is on the other side of my house, so we'll walk it over there and get that set up, then we'll come back here and see if we can handle this. So hold on. Right, so now we're in the greenhouse. My digital thermometer, I just turned it off because it makes that fan run when it gets too hot in here. So you can't see it, but it was at 118. But my trusty old mercury thermometer has dropped down to 118 because the fan was running. So obviously hotter than the 90 degree or 85 degree heat it is outside right now. So I've got this on the center table so no mice or anything can get to this. And I'm also putting this rack, this mesh flat back on top. It doesn't move, so they'd have to get through this to get into there anyway. So it's getting to be about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll see what happens tonight, and then sometime later today I'll decide if I want to take this inside or if I'll leave it out all night because I'm drying it, but I don't know. I'll read up and see if it can stay out all night without giving me salmonella or botulism or something. Anyway, so stay tuned. Let's go back to those other pots. Alright, so we're back out at the solar cooker. The heat's dropped down to about 180 degrees, and I'm going to take this top pot off. I've decided to let it dry a little bit more because although this end is really dry, this end is not. But here's underneath now. It looks significantly different. Looks more like an omelet, doesn't it? Like and it's very tacky, but this is all dried, so definitely going to leave this out, and I'm going to flip-flop the position. So I'll put the mostly dry pieces down and I'll roll it over. Who knows, it's like moving stuff around inside of a regular oven, isn't it? And then I'll put this on top. Maybe a little more even. These bowls are great, but they're not great for keeping things totally straight up and down and even. And let's see, I'm going to put this back down on the stick. And so you can see the stick is keeping it open maybe 4 inches. And we'll just come back out later and see what's happening. So we're looking at the eggs that we had drying in the greenhouse. I'm going to have to say that this whole experiment was an epic fail. I think it's possible to dry eggs with the sun. That's still, I mean, some of it's crunchy. Most of it's not, but I think where I failed is that I just poured it way too thick. It's just still wet underneath, and frankly, it's just disgusting. Wouldn't feed this to anybody. I'm not even sure I'm going to feed it to the chickens. So I'll show you the one that was done in the solar oven that I tried to do low and slow, but I think the problem also, too thick, but also when you dehydrate in a dehydrator, it runs 24/7, right? So it's constantly heating. But when you're in the sunshine, you're at the, the sun shines and then it sets, and so you're the will of the sun, I guess, and the moon. So when the dusk comes, you're out of sun, and so this just sits all night in a gooey, glocky mess and isn't very good. But I'll take you over to look at the other one, and here, as usual, is the trusty assistant Sarah, who would like some eggs, but she's not going to get any because I don't trust them. Okay, let's go to the other side. Another shot of the trusty assistant Sarah taking a break from the sun in the shade. Looking so cute. She's 5.5 months old now, people. getting big. Alright, so here we are at the solar oven, and we can look at this gloppy mess. Less gloppy. It's more like an omelet. This was the one that started on the bottom. And, you know, it's crunchy there. The other side got much more crunchier, but still it's so thick in this part. It's just, it's trash. So we're going to say epic fail. I may try it again, just pouring really thinly, but again, the 24-hour dehydration thing is what's got me. It needs to be thin enough that it can dry, within like 12 or 14 hours of sunshine that we have during the summer. So, epic fail. Thanks. Bye.